How's it going, everybody? We're at the Navic booth here at AHR 2024 Chicago, and I am joined by Andrew Greaves, and we're going to talk about these industrial vacuum pumps for a second. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming by the booth and everybody watching. Definitely wanted to touch on the NRD16T. I think it's a product, it's a pump that really lends itself to your audience. So for a lot of people that either already are chiller mechanics, aspiring to be, or maybe work in a facility where there are chillers, this is a product that I think really can change the way that you operate day to day, change your workflow when performing an evacuation on really any chiller. If we're talking air cooled, all the way up to the centrifugals, this thing has been tried and true at this point. Everything from a 100-ton up to 2,500-ton, in my personal experience. And I know that they're out there in the wild doing much more. So one of the things I appreciate the most out of a pump like this is the fact that you can put this in your van at the end of the day. In my experience in the past with working with manufacturers as a mechanic, a lot of times we had to keep our pumps on site. They're quite large, quite heavy, belt driven, and really aren't the kind of thing you're gonna just pick up and throw in your van at the end of the day. They're typically gonna live on site, which is fine. If you're doing facility work and you're kind of in a contract where you stay on site, don't really move around, I still think this has a lot of value for you. It's still a lot easier to lug around. You can even tie a rope on it and pull it around like a puppy. So it's got a lot of advantages in that sense. And the thing has been designed for applications outside of HVAC initially. So this is used for freeze drying processes, other types of flash freezing operations with produce and things that I don't even know how to explain. Frankly, it's out of my lane. But point is, what I do know is the build and the tolerances in this pump are done in such a way that this pump is meant to run 24/7 for 6 months at a time at times. So that's where this really comes into play as an advantage, I think, for your chiller guys.
Yeah, and I've had a great experience with it. This is what I carry when I'm doing larger pull down. So once I get into that 100, 200-ton range and up, even on my air cooled, my centrifugals, either way, this has done wonderful, and it's portable enough. Like, that's a big thing. Even getting it up to roofs and such, it's got the portability to get there. It's had really good thermal management. I've had great results out of the oil, and I've actually done it both ways with this. I used just generic oil, which it did okay, but I do feel like using the Navic oil, it did overall better. I feel like it did better with the thermal side of it. So I think y'all have got your own kind of proprietary mixture to that oil.
We do, and again, just in the name of staying in my lane, I won't pretend to know the exact chemical makeup and structure of this. What I do know is that we only promote this oil, mandate it really, for our industrial pumps. It's not necessary for your typical vacuum pumps and other applications, but in these industrial settings where, again, we want these things to perform as designed. So can you throw typical mineral oil in it? Sure. Typical vacuum pump oil, excuse me, but you may not get quite that thermal performance that we expect to see from a really heavy machine for the CFM. So again, this monster here is 90 plus pounds. It's 12 CFM, and again, one might think this is probably a much higher CFM, but again, a large element to this is that it's designed as large heat sink. So that, coupled with the formulation of this oil, is what enables it to perform as advertised. So we want our technicians to get the most out of an investment like this. Obviously, it's going to cost a little bit more than your typical vacuum pump that you do residential work with. So we need to support it with the right products that enable it to do what it needs to do. To me, it's the same argument as using proper hoses. Not using proper hoses, not using proper hardware is not good. It's going to derate your pump. Right. It's going to derate your investment, which again only hurts you.
If you're interested in this, I think TruTech supports these, right?
So actually, this specific model, and I said the NRD16T, the T actually I believe stood for a mixture of TruTech and True Blue. So this was a collaborative effort early on. For those of you that are dinosaurs or have been watching the HVAC YouTube videos since 2017-ish, back then we did a video with this product when I still worked for a manufacturer in a chiller plant, and we did a 2,500 ton brand new YK in a cooling plant for a university. So what makes this compatible or a TruTech True Blue collaboration was the swap out of our typical traditional KF15 inlet sizes, and we made it a KF16 out of the crate, right out of the box, so that it was immediately compatible with the True Blue hose product.
Which makes a lot of sense. And I like this little fitting. So when I didn't know this fitting existed until I got here. So I am definitely interested in that. Granted, going with the True Blue setup, like, really helps you maximize the pump. So I've got that set up, but that's a pretty nifty little adapter.
Always are going to promote and try to design our products around supporting the best possible practices. At the same time, we have to listen to the end user when they still have a demand for something that may differ slightly from where I think we should be on this. So we do have a lot of demand, and we had some frustration early on of people that maybe didn't have those hoses. They had traditional hoses and they wanted to be able to hook their half-inch ID hoses with a half-inch or a 3/8 end. So we answered in that sense. But typically the standard on an industrial style pump is going to be that KF flange. And you're going to usually, and I think I said KF15 before in the video here, and I misspoke, it's KF25. So KF25 would be your typical kind of industry standard internationally for these types of products. So going with a typical hose is a little bit outside of the norm in a broad sense of the term, but
so on the outside of the 16s, you've got the 24 and the 30 as well, right?
We have those, which we have a lot more than that, but that's kind of where we end the line on HVAC for when we cross into our industrial team that services those other industries. So we've kind of adopted the 24 and 30 because we still, though I know this is probably just adequate, just plenty adequate for most chillers in the environment, out in the world here. Again, the demand were at times for larger CFM ratings.
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with some of these spec refrigeration jobs. You got Walmarts and where, I don't want to throw stones, but sometimes you'll get engineers and these jobs get spec'd out with very specific timelines that they can have the system down offline. They give them 15 minutes to do an evacuation, on this massive rack system. And it has to be a minimum of 30 CFM for the pump. There's guidelines like that that really led to us needing to bring some of those more industrial, larger pumps into our side of things. So yes, we do have the NRD 24 and 30, but frankly, Navac manufactures pumps up to 300 CFM.
Awesome. So ultimately, the synopsis there is, if you're interested in this, your best bang for the buck is going to be the 16. I know TruTech does support this, so if you are interested in making that investment, because maybe you're in the market, because I was in a very similar place when I got mine, where you're interested in trying to go to a larger pump, but you don't necessarily can justify the scale of the really large industrial pumps that you many times see even a lot of the manufacturers carry around. I know those are a luxury as far as I'm concerned. And so this is a great middle ground, and that's what really led to me being so interested in it up front. Anyway, with that, HVAC Time is a promo code, get you 8% off. I do get a little bit of a commission off of that. But with that, appreciate it, Andrew. It's a great time at AHR, guys. But
absolutely, you guys missed a good show. Try to get out next year in Orlando and see us at the booth and see it for yourself.
With that, MTT, take care of your family, take care of your spouse, your kids, spend the time with them, make the time. We'll see you around, guys.
All right, thanks, Holden. Appreciate it.